Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to really pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the insights from these personal stories. We're going to explore the different, very real forms of horror that can pop up right in and around family life.
Yeah.
You know, from domestic and psychological stuff to things that are just inexplicable.
You're ready to try and understand what makes these narratives so powerful and, crucially, what lessons they might hold for all of us.
Okay, let's unpack this first theme, because it's a tough one. Sometimes the greatest danger isn't lurking outside, but from within, in the very place we're supposed to feel safest. Home. Our first story comes from Riley Brooks. She was just 16 when her world was completely shattered during a seemingly normal sleepover at her best friend Leah's house.
Yeah, it sounds like a typical setup, right? Text messages, duffel bag. Riley described the house as, the kind with a tire swing, woods thick enough to swallow sound. Leah's mom, Claire, was a nurse. Her stepdad, Warren, worked HVAC. Smelled of dust and engine oil, Riley said. Everything, really, on the surface seemed fine.
But there was this unsettling presence, Leah's older brother, Caleb.
Right. Riley had only seen him a few times, described him as cold, absent, said his eyes didn't match the rest of him, like his mind was somewhere darker.
And Leah had hinted he'd had problems.
Yeah, dropped out, moved away, got into some trouble, was the phrase used.
Yeah.
Supposedly trying to do better now, but even Leah didn't sound convinced.
Okay, so that Friday night, the air smelled like burning leaves, sky turned black early. Riley said Leah was jumpy, fidgeting, giving these clipped answers.
And she finally admitted Caleb was coming by, usually for money, and that her stepdad Warren wouldn't give him any more. Not after last time, when Caleb apparently punched a hole in the wall during an argument. So you could feel this tension building already.
So Caleb arrives.
Yeah, they heard the tires on the gravel. He didn't knock, just opened the door, slammed it shut. Riley and Leah heard muffled voices, Caleb demanding money, Warren saying firmly, no more handouts.
And then?
Then, suddenly, chillingly, Caleb pulled a shotgun from under his coat.
Wow.
First blast, Warren dropped. Second, Claire, Leah's mom, knocked backward. And Caleb's voice telling Leah to shut up now, Riley said it was too calm, too cold.
Oh my God, that's when Riley's instinct just kicked in.
Exactly. She hissed, run, till Leah yanked her back into the bedroom, slammed the door, locked it, shoved a desk against it.
But Caleb was right there.
Right behind them, pounding on the door, hissing, you calling the pigs? The lock snapped. The door splintered.
They barely got the window open.
Barely. Riley pulled Leah through. They hit the porch roof, rolled off, dropped to the ground. And just as they scrambled up, a shotgun blast tore through the air right behind them. They just bolted into the woods.
Unbelievable. They managed to find help.
Ran for what felt like miles, found a hunting shack, an old man let them in. Police arrived 15 minutes later, too late for Warren and Claire.
And Caleb.
Found him walking back to his truck, laughing to himself.
Yeah.
Blood soaked into his sleeves, didn't resist arrest. Leah went into protective custody. Caleb got life without parole.
The image of him laughing, it's horrific. And Riley's takeaway, monsters aren't under the bed. They live down the hall. They eat at your table. They call you family. That just hits hard.
It really does. Riley's experience is such a stark reminder, isn't it?
Mm.
True horror often thrives not in the unknown, but right there, in the assumed safety of intimate spaces. It fundamentally challenges how we see home.
Yeah, it makes you realize how vulnerability is just amplified when the threat comes from inside the family unit itself.
And for you, the listener, it's a powerful, maybe uncomfortable lesson in recognizing that danger can, sometimes, wear a very familiar face.
But that stark realization, it's deeply unsettling. It forces you to confront how precarious that sense of safety can actually be. But, okay, if direct violence is one form of this horror, what about the slower kind, the insidious erosion of spirit?
Right. Let's turn now to Billy Reynolds' story. This reveals a different, maybe even more corrosive kind of domestic terror, the slow buildup of abuse.
And it started with a knock.
Yeah. Seems strange, but that's how we remembered it starting. Not loud, just a faint tap. But looking back, it was like the first domino. Billy was 12 when he started hearing it at night. His mother, Sharon, had given him this strict rule. If you ever hear someone knocking and it's not me, you do not open that door. Do you understand, Billy?
And he did. He understood rules more than love, he said, even then.
His family lived in a low-income neighborhood. Mom worked nights. Dad, Don, ex-warehouse worker, back injury. Constantly drunk, abusive. Spent his days watching static fill news or nursing bottles of Milwaukee's best.
So Billy learned to just disappear.
Pretty much. Disappear in hallways and classrooms, in his own home. The violence was a pattern. Don's voice was like a starting gun. Afterwards, Sharon might have a split lip, spaghetti on the floor.
Did you make excuses?
Yeah, rationalizations. He'll calm down. He wasn't always like this.
But Billy saw through it.
He seemed incredibly perceptive for a kid. When his mom said Don wasn't always like this, Billy apparently looked at her reflection and asked, "Were you?"
Wow.
Turns out Sharon herself grew up with abuse. Her own mother worshipped pain like a religion. Don, maybe charming once, had let years of failure just curdle inside him. Billy watched this cycle repeat.
And his breaking point
Came during a talk with a school counselor. He admitted he was thinking about what it would take to make it stop. Later, he grabbed the sharpest knife from the kitchen block. "Not to use," he said, just to hold.
Okay, so this is leading somewhere incredibly dark.
It is. By Tuesday, he had a plan. Faked being sick from school after another fight the night before. That morning, he smothered his father, Don, with a pillow while he slept it off.
Oh, God.
When Sharon came home smelling of gasoline from her job, he killed her with a hammer.
This is horrific.
And the aftermath. Billy propped their lifeless bodies at the kitchen table, created this grotesque scene, stitched their eyes open, used duct tape to resemble speech.
He talked to them.
Yeah, told them, "You don't care about me, but now you'll listen." Even moved their heads like a ventriloquist, stayed there for 3 more days, cooking meals, watching cartoons, talking to his silent parents. "They finally listen now," he'd say.
I can't even imagine. And then the knocking came back.
On the 4th night, soft, deliberate, 3 taps, then silence. Billy froze. A voice whispered from the other side, "Billy, you did good." Then, "Let me in." And finally, "I'm proud of you." His hand hovered over the lock, but he didn't open it.
Elise eventually came.
Neighbors called, reported something off about the kid. Police found the body, Sharon with a fork in her throat.
Yeah.
Don's face purple. Billy was just sitting on his bedroom floor, smiling, whispering, "I made them stop."
What happened to him?
Diagnosis was psychotic breaks, disassociation, and severe trauma. Which isn't just medical jargon, right? It shows how profoundly that sustained abuse fractured his reality.
The actions, talking to the bodies, propping them up.
It's a chilling manifestation, isn't it? A mind desperate to control a world that had violently spun out of control. It highlights how the psyche tries to cope, however grotesquely, with unbearable pain. He spoke to walls sometimes, apparently, but never opened the door again.
That's just incredibly heavy. It reveals how deeply mental health and severe trauma are intertwined, distorting reality for a child. For you, the listener, it's such a stark reminder of the long, insidious shadow abuse casts.
Absolutely. And how victims' coping mechanisms can become their own form of horror. The cycle of violence passed down, fundamentally redefining normal for a child, it leads to truly devastating outcomes.
It's just profoundly sad. Okay, let's shift slightly. Our next story, Callie Brooke Pierce's, introduces us to a different kind of evil. One she described as quieter, more methodical, not the monsters you read about in fairy tales.
Right. Callie was 13 when she had this realization that other kids didn't live like she did. She saw a classmate, Olivia, with clean food, neatly sealed cookies. It contrasted sharply with Callie's home, where, she said, nothing was yours.
Describe her home environment.
Run-down 2-bedroom house, Larchwood, South Dakota. A place people go there to disappear, she called it. Her parents, Linda and Keith, seemed normal to outsiders, smiled when they signed school papers. But behind closed doors, abusive. The house smelled of old cigarettes, something sour. 5 kids crammed in there. Denny, Kyle, twin girls, Mara and June, plus Callie. Constant anger from her dad was the baseline.
And the abuse started young.
Yeah, small things at first. At 9, locked in a closet for 9 hours just for spilling orange juice, listening to her little sister Mara cry outside the door.
But it escalated.
Drastically. Around 13, her mom started calling her an ugly little slut. Her dad's hand would linger on her calf. Her mom once slammed her head into a mirror, then pressed a lit cigarette into her thigh.
Jesus, how did the kids cope?
They developed ways. Showering less, wearing oversized clothes to hide bruises, just staying silent at school. Callie remembers her science teacher asking, "Did you fall?" She just nodded. He believed me. Everyone always did.
And there was an attic.
The attic was our punishment room. Her brother Denny was isolated there for 3 days once. He became mute afterward.
Through all this, Callie kept a journal.
Yeah, hidden under a loose floorboard. Not for escape, she said, but for remembering. Remembering the lies, the bruises, the moments they couldn't erase by saying, "We love you." It was her method, her witness.
That journal became crucial, didn't it?
Absolutely. Especially when things got even worse. Parents started chaining the fridge shut, feeding them cold beans, uncooked rice, sometimes moldy bread, just once a day. Mara's ribs looked like piano keys, Callie wrote. That's when her planning became really methodical.
How did she plan?
She stole a paperclip from the school library, practiced picking the bathroom lock for weeks. She was preparing.
And her chance came.
One night, her dad got arrested for stealing tools. Her mom, furious, drank herself unconscious. Callie seized the moment. Took her 3 minutes to pick the front door lock.
3 minutes after all that practice.
Woke her siblings, barefoot, led them through 3 miles of snow to a gas station, collapsed near the ice machine, just gasped, "Call 911.
What did the police find?
The kids were malnourished, covered in old bruises. Mara had cigarette burns. The parents received life without parole.
Callie's planning, her documentation. It's incredible for a child under those conditions.
It offers a profound insight, doesn't it? In situations of systematic abuse, the act of witnessing, of recording, becomes this powerful tool, not just for memory, but for reclaiming agency and ultimately engineering escape.
Her story is a testament to how meticulous preparation, fueled by that primal drive for freedom, can shatter even the most oppressive domestic prisons. It's incredibly powerful. Her turning observation into an escape plan is just inspiring. What happened to her after?
She went into foster care, learned what safety sounded like, what love really looked like, found joy in simple things like pancakes, eventually studied social work.
To help kids like her.
Yeah. So for you, the listener, Callie's story isn't just about survival. It's about the profound strength that can emerge from the darkest places and how a meticulous, resilient spirit can literally rewrite the future.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. We're shifting from the horrors within the home to the insidious nature of external threats, often masked by normalcy.
Right. And our next story, Lina Morgan's, starts exactly there. 15-year-old Lina, enjoying summer freedom with her cousin Kay. Quiet Georgia neighborhood, 2002. That weird space between childhood and something more, she called it. Toaster waffles, trash TV, sunbathing, normal teenage summer stuff.
Until a trip to the gas station.
Exactly. They encountered a man who looked completely normal. Tan cargo shorts, navy t-shirt, a ball cap, offering flyers for a local charity drive.
And Lina took one.
Yeah, she thought it felt rude not to. He seemed friendly enough, but his eyes lingered a little too long. Asked if they were from around there, suggested Lina looked like a good volunteer for their meeting. A little off, maybe, but not outright alarming yet.
But then he showed up at the house.
Later that evening, the doorbell rang. Same man, calm. Claimed he dropped his phone outside earlier while handing out flyers. Lina hesitated, but, politeness. She opened the door wider.
That was the mistake.
Instantly exploited. He shoved her inside, hand gripping her throat. Dragged her to the kitchen, threatened to kill her if she made a sound, forced her into the trunk of his car. She remembered a strong chemical smell.
British taker.
To an apartment. Yeah. Disturbing place. Stained carpet, stale and thick air, blackout curtains, and a closet was padlocked shut.
Oh, no.
The psychological torment started almost immediately. He carved his name into her forearm with something sharp.
What? Why?
He whispered, "People forget pain, but a name, my name. Well, that'll stick." Then, chillingly, "You're mine now."
How does she escape?
She waited until she thought he was asleep. Painstakingly worked at the zip tie on her wrist until it finally snapped, slipped free. Then she noticed the closet door. It was open just an inch.
And inside?
She saw dresses. Dirty, torn, stained with blood. There were too many, she said. The horrifying realization hit her. She was the only one who survived.
Oh my God, she ran.
Ran barefoot out of the apartment, waved wildly at a pickup truck for help. Her abductor, Raymond Cale, 38, barricaded himself inside the apartment when police arrived, shot himself.
Police found evidence.
6 dresses, missing person flyers, a shoebox full of photos in his apartment, clearly a predator who had done this before.
That is just unspeakable. Lina survived but carries that scar.
Physically and mentally, yes.
Yeah.
Her arm would always bear his name, though laser treatment helped fade it. She reflected later on how she felt let down by the world, by the adults who were supposed to notice when a girl was gone.
But she tells her story now.
Yeah, her ugly, honest story, as she calls it. For the others who didn't get away, so someone remembers, so someone notices next time. And her chilling takeaway. In the ordinary things, horror hides best.
That phrase, "in the ordinary things, horror hides best," That really resonates.
It underscores a critical insight, doesn't it? Our natural inclination towards politeness, towards trust, it can be expertly weaponized by predators.
So for you, the listener, it's a vital reminder that stranger danger isn't always some shadowy figure.
Exactly. It's often the person who appears utterly normal, exploiting our social conditioning. It's about recognizing that subtle linger, that polite but persistent pressure, that feeling that signals something is deeply wrong just beneath the surface.
That's a powerful lesson, and it leads us right into Aaron's story, where the real evil, as he put it, is subtle, smiles sweetly, doesn't wear a black cloak.
Right. For 8-year-old Aaron, Sleepy Pine Grove's Walmart was like a portal to the world.
Big place for a kid.
Huge. He remembers the automatic doors whooshing open, the smell of popcorn and floor polish. Fascinated by how everything seemed to exist in that one place.
But then he noticed someone.
Yeah, a woman. Purple windbreaker. Always seemed to be one aisle over, just slowly following them. Aaron got that gut feeling. Told his mom, I think that lady's following us. But his mom, Dana, kind of shrugged it off. Busy shopping, maybe.
Then his mom left him alone for a moment.
Quick restroom trip. Left Aaron waiting near the registers with his brand new 120 colors crayon set he was so excited about.
And the woman approached.
Right away. Spoke in a soft, sugary voice. Claimed, I'm a friend of your mother. Then she asked me to come get you.
Oh, that's classic.
Her fingers were ice cold when she touched his cheek. Aaron hesitated. She grabbed his wrist tightly. Her smile, he said, turned not friendly anymore. And then she whispered the terrifying part.
I'll be your new mom. A better one. Trust me.
Chilling. Aaron must have been terrified.
Heart dropped. He thought, I'll never see my mom again. But then he heard it. Aaron.
Running towards him, barefoot, stumbling, her head covered in blood, screaming, Let him go! Let him go right now!
What happened?
The woman just bolted. Let Aaron go, ran out the side exit.
Unbelievable. What had she done to his mom?
Turned out the woman, Denise Langley, a former colleague of his dad's who was obsessed with him, had attacked his mom in the restroom, slammed her head into the wall.
But his mom still came for him.
Fueled by pure adrenaline, apparently. Dragged herself out, found him, saved him. Just incredible maternal instinct.
How bad was she hurt?
Needed 10 stitches. But her intervention ensured Aaron was safe. Langley had been stalking them for weeks, it turned out. She was caught later, charged with assault, attempted abduction, and stalking.
And Aaron still has the crayons.
Yeah, that 120 color set. Old and brittle now, he says, but he kept it.
That crayon set becomes such a symbol, doesn't it? And his mom's words to him later, I was terrified, but nothing could keep me from getting to you. That's just wow.
It really drives home an essential insight for you, the listener. When faced with an immediate threat, instinct can be more powerful than any plan. It's that primal, sometimes irrational surge of protective will that can override fear, even severe injury, to ensure safety.
It's truly remarkable, that human instinct, especially parental, cutting right through the terror.
Absolutely. The raw, unfiltered power of a parent's protective instinct is one of humanity's fiercest defenses. But, sometimes the threat, it just defies explanation. It blurs the lines between reality and nightmare.
Yeah, this is where we get into the unique terror of the unexplained and the unsettling.
Exactly. And our first story in this realm is Emily Walker's. Emily, a single mom, gets home late from work. Her 10-year-old daughter, Clara, is home alone.
Okay, so a normal Friday night return.
Seems that way. Full shift, late shopping trip, grocery bags aching her fingers, puts away groceries, half listening to Clara's favorite cartoon echoing faintly from upstairs. Here's the familiar sound of the shower running in the bathroom.
So she goes up to check on Clara.
Yeah. Knocks, calls out, no answer. Water's still running. But then she notices something crucial. No steam.
No steam.
Right. She said when Clara showers, the hallway turns into a sauna. But this time, nothing. And then she sees it. A pale foot under the bathroom door.
Oh, no.
She forces the locked door open and just freezes. There's a woman in the bathtub, lying flat, fully clothed, just letting the shower rain down on her.
Oh my God, what does she look like?
Emily described her as looking like she'd been dead and buried years ago. Hollow eyes, matted gray hair.
Did she react?
Emily's scream came out kind of broken. The woman sat up slowly. Her joints popped like old wood, Emily said. Her face was just empty, no expression, just vacancy, like her soul had slipped out hours ago. She just watched Emily.
What did Emily do?
Panicked. grabbed Clara, who was actually curled up in her own bed, terrified, ran down to the basement guest room, locked the door, called 911. Clara was just from, "Mom, who's that?" But when I peeked out of my door, she was walking up the stairs.
So the woman was just wandering the house.
Apparently. Police arrived quickly, searched the whole house, found nothing.
Nothing. No forced entry.
No forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing on the doorbell camera. The only trace, wet footprints in the upstairs hallway.
That's it.
That's it. Emily changed every lock, still checks them twice every night. Her lasting terror isn't because the woman took anything or hurt them physically.
It was the not knowing.
Exactly. She just stood there in my home, in my bathroom, in my place. And for reasons I still don't understand, that's what terrifies me most. One officer apparently reflected, drugs can do a lot, but so can grief. So can years alone.
Trying to rationalize the irrational, but it doesn't really explain it, does it?
Not really.
Emily's experience is terrifying because it defies explanation. The critical insight here is how deeply unsettling it is when a violation happens without clear motive, logic, or perpetrator. It leaves this unresolvable enigma that shatters the very idea of a safe space.
That's spot on. It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding when faced with something truly inexplicable. The terror of the unknown is arguably more profound than the terror of something, clearly understood, because it leaves us without a framework for defense or resolution. It's a violation of not just a home, but of reality itself.
And that feeling, that violation of reality, resonates deeply in our next story. This one's from Riley, the daughter of Peter Holloway. And it's heartbreaking early onset dementia, but coupled with this added layer of an unexplained, unsettling presence.
Right. Her father, Peter, was described as a quiet man, a school librarian, now succumbing to dementia at only 65.
And Riley tried to recreate a special weekend.
Yeah, a cherished Father's Day weekend tradition, but at her flat this time. The care home warned her, though. Peter was restless. He talks to the window sometimes, sees the lady, who is apparently waiting.
Oh, wow. So there were moments of clarity mixed with confusion.
Exactly. Poignant moments where he'd whisper, "Riley," or "You've grown up. I didn't think I'd get to see it." But then moments later, he'd point to a photo of himself and ask, "Is this your brother?"
Then came the hallucination.
Well,
or something else.
Well, that's the question. 2:13 a.m., Riley finds Peter standing right at the edge of her balcony, one foot lifted over the edge, whispering, "The lady's waiting." His eyes, she said, were filled with this terrifying mix of joy, terror, madness.
She pulled him back.
Managed to pull him back inside. But later that night, he thrashed in fear, relaying the lady's cruel words. She said, "The world forgot me, that I'm just a burden, that you would be better off."
How awful for Riley to hear.
Just devastating. But her love was unwavering. She told him, "You're not a burden, you're my father."
But the mystery of the lady remained.
It endures. The care home staff suggested it was a common hallucination linked to dementia, maybe Lewy body dementia. But Riley, she isn't so sure. Strange things happen in her flat afterward.
Like what?
Mirrors steaming up with shapes that look like unwritten words. A single distinct footprint on the balcony after a dry night. A faint lavender scent appearing and disappearing. Dreams of the woman.
So it blurs that line, doesn't it, between tragic mental decline and something else, something potentially supernatural.
It absolutely does, making it all the more terrifying.
The critical insight here for you, the listener, is how vulnerability, especially cognitive vulnerability, can seemingly be exploited, not just by human predators, but potentially by forces that seem to defy our understanding.
Right. When our perception of reality itself is compromised, the very foundation of our safety is shaken. It leaves us wondering what dark entities, real or imagined, might truly prey on the most susceptible among us. It forces us to confront the horrifying possibility that our own minds, or perhaps something beyond them, can become the ultimate source of terror when our grasp on reality falters.
These stories certainly highlight human vulnerability in the face of profound, often inexplicable threats. But they also, importantly, illuminate something incredibly powerful. The fierce protective instinct that can emerge.
A counterpoint to the horror.
Exactly. Which brings us to Mira's story. Mira was 15, camping with her dad, Dev Malik. He loved cars, she said. This was in Pisgah National Forest, their last Father's Day camping trip together, it turned out. Her dad's mantra was, "I only get to be a dad because I have you, kiddo."
Sweet. But the quiet forest setting, it started to feel off.
Yeah, subtle signs of danger. 2 men at a nearby campsite. They weren't hiking or fishing, just drinking loudly. One had a hacking cough. The other wore sunglasses even after dusk. Mira felt uneasy. I could feel eyes on us.
And her dad picked up on it too.
Immediately. His knuckles turned pale, gripping the cooler handle, she noticed. Just before sunset, his instinct just flared up. He told her, Mira, help me pack up. No arguments. Go. Quiet.
Didn't wait around?
Nope. Shoved the half-assembled tent into the truck, moved them closer to the access road, a bit more exposed, but quicker getaway.
But the men followed them.
They did. Approached the new campsite later, one holding a beer, the other scanning the area with a flashlight, looking for Mira.
What did Mira do?
Pivotal moment. Her dad must have motioned, or she just knew. She hid under the truck bed, smelled the man's sweat, his beer breath as he came close, but stayed perfectly still even as he relieved himself nearby.
God, terrifying. And her dad?
Stood his ground, calmly, holding the fire poker in his hand. His quiet defiance was palpable, she said. The men eventually backed off, maybe sensing he wouldn't be easy prey.
Did they leave them?
Dev didn't wait to find out. Once the men left, he loaded everything but the tent into the truck, drove straight to a ranger station, called the local sheriff.
And his instincts were right.
Dead on. The deputies found the men idling their truck near the access road. One had a warrant out for trespassing. The other had a knife hidden in his sock.
Wow. Close call.
Incredibly close. When the officer asked if these were the men, Mira's dad stared them down and said something intense.
What did he say?
He said, "You're lucky I brought my daughter to the cops instead of burying you both where no one would ever find you."
Ew. That's a gut-wrenching statement.
Yeah.
Speaks volumes about that fierce protection.
It really does. Mira said Father's Day changed after her dad had a stroke later on, but she never forgot the weight of the fire poker in his hand and how it glinted in the dark, ready to protect me with everything he had.
That image is powerful.
And for you, the listener, this is such a crucial takeaway. To every parent out there, your instincts are real. They are powerful. Don't ignore them. That subtle shift, that feeling in your gut, it's your body's primal warning system for a reason.
Absolutely. And to every daughter, every son, every child, know what it looks like when someone would walk through fire to keep you safe. Recognizing that unwavering protective force, whether it's a parent, a friend, anyone, it can be a beacon of hope in a world where horror can lurk anywhere. Trusting those instincts, your own or those of a loved one, it's paramount.
So we've explored some really diverse forms of horror today, haven't we? The betrayal within family, the deceptive threat of strangers, and that truly terrifying unknown that can just creep into our lives, blurring the lines of what's real.
Yeah, each story offers a unique, often disturbing glimpse into both vulnerability and sometimes incredible resilience.
What really stands out, I think, across all these narratives is that common thread of human fragility. But it's juxtaposed, isn't it, with the incredible power of awareness, vigilance, and absolutely trusting your gut, even when things seem normal.
Right. These accounts, as terrifying as they are, offer profound insights. Insights into human resilience, sure, but also the depths of human cruelty and the extraordinary power of love and instinct when faced with danger. They remind us that knowing what hides in the dark and maybe what kind of light to look for can make all the difference.
So next time you feel that subtle shift in the air,
Yeah.
that quiet unease, or you see something that just doesn't quite fit,
What will you do?
what unexpected horror, or perhaps what incredible act of protection might be waiting just beneath the surface of the ordinary?